To the planning board meeting, January 6, 2020. Going to open up our public hearing, scheduled for advertise a schedule for 6:30 public hearing on mixed use 1, adding drive-throughs pursuant to petition 59-18. Is there anyone here to present this, or just us to discuss? This was before us. I believe this was originally Mr. Whitney's petition.
Or 18 months ago, I think.
And my recollection is he wanted to be able to put in some sort of, I don't want to name,
Donut shop.
a type of donut shop with a drive-through, because employees in the area of the new development were looking for a place to be able to take a break or grab a coffee on the way in. He was getting high demand of that at that time. Yeah, where the RV is. That's my recollection.
Yeah, yes. That's what he's looking for.
But I think what the chair's concern, John, was that, was your concern that would be going in throughout mixed use? Did you have a concern about that?
Do we want to announce to the audience that John is on?
Yes, John Souza is on the phone, our chair, remotely.
He's in Florida, would appear.
The only concern we had was did we want to open up MU1? Okay, and as long as, but then we looked at it, it's a special permit by the planning board.
That's what it is.
Oh,
Okay.
that's how we, yes.
So we should make sure of that, and I think that's enough restriction that we can control it.
Oh, thank you.
Okay? I have another issue.
Well, let's hear it.
I believe.
You only get one, then we're gonna hang up on you.
And we may have to get a legal on this, because this petition was accepted by the city council. But I believe one of the petitioners has moved out of town. One of the signatories.
That's accurate.
Well,
Okay.
how many do they need? They need 10?
10.
Do they only get 10?
They only got 10.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Yep. So they need another one. Well, this is a matter, though, that the city council kind of just didn't act upon.
This petition was accepted by the city council previously.
Is it accepted?
Really, we just follow it up. I don't think it's an issue, and I think we should go forward.
I think that's correct. I would
It's
agree.
an administrative action.
Sure.
Okay, well, we can always just make a recommendation to the city council and just mention that one of the 10 interested parties is no longer a Leominster resident.
Might want to verify that.
All right, but,
Okay, it's Mike Cooley.
okay.
His wife,
Mike moved?
Okay.
Cooley.
Westminster.
It may have been just at the, I don't know, I don't want to say, my common sense, it makes me think that if you were a resident at the time of the signing of the petition, I don't know. But that's,
I agree, she was. That's not an issue at that time, okay? And I just to be on the safe side, that's all I'm being.
all right, does anyone in the audience have any questions, comments, or criticisms about this petition? I'll ask one more time. Anyone have any comments? Okay, board members?
No.
Okay. Anything else, John?
No, I got nothing.
Okay.
I make a motion to close the hearing.
I think the only opposition we have is from the building inspector, right?
Second.
Yes.
And what was,
Pete?
There's a letter memo
oh,
from the
not
building
harming with the
inspector in
purpose
the
of,
packet.
well, let me just take a look at what he's saying. Under 4, section, Article 4,
Was
his letters.
It seemed like
The
his
first one.
comment was, if it was to be an allowable use without any type of oversight, it seemed that that was the spirit of his comment. If it was just blanket allowed in mixed use 1, as opposed to having a special permit attached to it.
that sounds good.
I don't think I thank the bank, I would have thanked the
No,
It's for your
it says the purpose is to provide for the coordinated and mixed development of institutional business and our industrial uses and encourage adaptive reuse of abandoned, vacant, underutilized business or manufacturing buildings. I mean, it kind of fits under the first one, provide for the coordinated and mixed development of institutional business and our industrial uses.
Yeah.
But I think, I agree with John, if we put in a special permit component, that might satisfy the building inspector as well. Any other comments? Hate talking through the Star Spangled Banner, but.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, did I have a motion? Did I hear a motion?
Motion, yeah.
Second, all those in favor to close this hearing?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, let's go to the regular meeting, call to order, please.
Patrick Perla.
Here?
Fred Fredericks.
Yeah.
Paul Weiser. Excused. Salvatore Tricone.
Here.
John Souza.
Yeah.
And we'll say that John is here remotely by telephone.
Yeah.
Carol Vittorioso.
Here.
Thomas Carrigan.
Present.
Okay, I don't know what's wrong with me tonight. You gave me this packet and now I all of a sudden can't find the.
Did we want to say that we wanted to add something to the agenda to old business? As a
Yes, well,
housekeeping matter?
I think we, usually what we do is we do it when we get to that section.
Okay.
Minutes of previous meeting, November 18th.
Make a motion to accept it.
Second.
Yep. I read pretty thoroughly and they look.
Okay, motion made, second, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries.
You're not in a different time zone.
3.0, plans submitted, no new plans submitted at this time. 4.0, old business, do I have a motion to add the public hearing we just had? It just an error in the.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to add the public hearing regarding MU1 and adding drive-throughs. Motion made and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. We'll call that 4.05, because let's do it next.
Okay.
Do I have anyone that,
I'd like to make a motion to make a recommendation to the city council to allow drive-throughs in mixed-use 1 through special permit planning board.
I'll second that.
a motion made and seconded, all those in,
Did that cover everything?
Yeah. Just wants it on the special
Yep,
permit.
no, understood, yep, SPPP.
SPUB.
I just want to check one thing. Is it, how is it listed? Is it actually,
Yeah,
my question is, are we just calling it drive-throughs and that's it? That's my, I mean, are we calling them,
yeah, it could be different names, yeah.
I mean, are we specifically asking for restaurant, fast food takeout with drive-through?
You have banks, you have,
Do we want to identify that?
Well, because we're not talking about banks.
Right.
and you should.
It would
have
allow any
banks.
business to have a drive-through.
Yeah, any business.
With a
Any
special
business
permit.
with a
With a
Be a
special
bank
permit.
too.
With a special permit in MU1? Okay,
Any business,
okay.
because it has to come to us for approval anyway.
Well, I can't think of any
Besides those two.
CVS?
Pharmacy. Yeah.
CVS.
Yeah,
Okay,
anything,
that's
so
good.
we're talking any business.
Okay.
You agree with that?
Okay, did you want to read the memo from our previous director, Kristen Kelly? It's, you may not have noticed it. It's on the back. It's on the back of the first page. It's directed to Lynn Bouchard. Says at a regularly scheduled planning board meeting on May 21st, 2018, the planning board voted unanimously to recommend approval of the above referenced petition, provided that a special permit is obtained through the planning board. The The zoning amendment will affect all areas zone MU1 throughout the city, and the planning board would want oversight for each proposed project on a case-by-case basis to evaluate suitability of a drive-through in a specific location. The special permit process provides such oversight.
Okay, great.
Looks good.
Okay, so motion made and seconded, and we've had that discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. 4.1, site plan modification for 449 Wachusett Street. Do I have a representative?
As we scheduled.
No, it's
We have
not.
someone here.
No, he's here.
Business.
They're here.
We have this, what's this?
It's a minor.
Yeah, it's gonna be
He's
minor
hoping it's a
or
minor
major.
It's a
modification?
minor.
Okay.
Right.
Is that for the 4.2 as well?
You want to set up?
Actually,
Yeah, I have one.
yeah, if you use a clipboard, that would be great.
Okay, we'll,
You gotta agree that it's a minor modification.
We know,
You gotta put it over here for the TV. Okay. Before you go through
we
all
don't
that.
know until we get the briefing.
Silence.
Silence.
Better stand over here.
Yep.
That's fine.
High, can you put it high, keep it high? Thank you. I don't mean to be we just,
I'll just slow down.
yeah, that's, well,
So thank you again, Jim Bardakis, engineer, project manager from Wood, here on behalf of the applicant Sunpin and the property owner, Bashan. So just as a recap, this is the overall site plan of the solar array. The only thing that changed here with regards to conservation for this site plan modification is the access road, this portion right here. So the only plans that were brought to the commission were this sheet and the detail sheet associated with the wetland replication area. This was just an overall of the plan we were talking about. So nothing with the solar array changed, or the fencing, or the cutting, or anything. It was mainly just this piece of the road here.
that was through the wetlands, right, that we walked through?
Right,
Piece
right.
around
So
there.
this is where we had parked and entered
Yeah.
on the sidewalk. The old road path, walking path goes straight through here as you
Yeah.
get to the golf course. We had previously designed the road to go around this hatched area. It was through DCR, we submitted an application for wetland protection area, and we received confirmation that it was not in DCR's jurisdiction.
Good.
Conservation also approved and issued their order of conditions in December. So therefore, we revised the design to go follow that same path rather than go all the way around. And have much less wetland impact, much less earthwork. So this was the original plan that was submitted, just the zoom in of that area. This was the proposed design to go around this, which was determined not to be in the jurisdiction. So
And the original was the other line there, or what?
this is these
That was the original
the
path.
wetland flagging, so the
Right.
revised design is to follow that path through. This is the new design, it's
Yeah.
just to follow that path all the way through. And then correspondingly, we adjusted the wetland replication area to compensate for this crossing. And that's what the detail sheet showed. This was the old detail sheet, nothing changed here with regards to the stormwater. The only thing that we added was the cross-section for the wetland replication area, which was that hatched area down on the side. This was all worked through a replication checklist with Conservation Commission. That was separate documentation there, but it was basically a detailed cross-section of the wetlands that were to be replicated in this area.
Yeah.
so can you show us again the original? Do you have the original?
Yeah.
Can you show us again?
So this is the zoom out view. The array is up here to the east. This is the piece we're talking about on the entrance, and this is the zoom in. Old design. So this had the much greater wetland impact because the wetland is much wider through here. But we did that in order to avoid this protection area, which was later determined by DCR not to be jurisdictional, and they approved us using the existing path that we did the site walk through there. So that's
You
the
have to
old,
put a drainage
It's less
underneath it
than
anyway,
It's less than
right?
that.
sense.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a minor modification, Mr. President.
So make a motion for a minor modification.
I make a motion
Yep, I second it.
that it's a minor modification.
Okay.
Yep.
How do you guys feel about that?
And everybody's in
I-
compliance,
I-
DEP.
I'm thinking it might impact
I
the
got a
drainage.
question.
Well,
How close does that road get to Kelly's property?
Didn't get any closer with the change. Kelly's property.
Actually, it's
Further away, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kelly's is down below.
That's the new design right there, right?
this is the new, this is the.
Yeah, John, it's actually
This is
less,
Kelly. So it's
there's
not
more
changing by his
distance
property.
actually to the property.
It's actually
lines.
further away from Kelly's.
Yeah, it's further away.
Okay.
I don't know how many feet that is. Can you give us that in feet?
It's almost 100 feet.
About 100
But
feet?
that section never changed.
Okay.
Just this section here.
So,
The property that bordered Kelly didn't change.
Correct.
Once you passed it,
Correct.
it came in closer, now it's further away.
Correct.
So you are moving a road, which is significant, and it could impact the drainage calculations. So I would argue that it might be considered a major modification.
Well, being a dirt road.
actually, it's less footage by the road, right?
It's shorter and smaller.
Short.
It's shorter and smaller square footage, and we did recognize that that footpath was essentially a little bit higher than the wetland on either side. We did add some 6-inch culverts to allow
I was gonna say,
for water
to
passage
pass through.
underneath. Because as you walk that path, it's essentially dry and was wet on either side.
Right.
So as we designed for the road, we added these pipes to allow for passage of water underneath.
But that hasn't been reviewed yet.
But it's not an official road either. It's just an access to the property. It's not a road.
But it needs approval from the conservation.
Concom is who's gonna determine whether.
Concom is the ones that looked at this and made this recommendation.
Okay.
They made the change.
They said it was okay to make the change.
That's where it's coming from, that's the origination.
Right, so Concom issued the order of conditions approval
Yep.
in December.
And it's actually, there's actually less surface you would have to worry about as far as the drainage would go, I think.
Paved or unpaved?
It's gravel, but it's shorter and
gravel.
it's shorter in length and smaller in area.
Whatever the soils are.
Nothing.
Well, we can make that,
And who's gonna check the drainage?
yeah, I don't,
DPW?
what was the original, I mean, you had a drainage calculation on that to begin with?
Correct.
You did.
Get it changed?
So did you guys recalculate with the change?
We did not because the design worked in this condition and this was a lesser condition. And then we added, since we were going on that higher portion, we added the drainage pipes underneath to allow for passage of water.
Would it be a lot of work just to update the calculation on the drainage
When,
or not? Just curious, it's just a question.
not a lot of work, but it would, to redo the calculations, it would take some effort
Yeah.
to redo the
You
report for
do
that.
have other abutting properties not that far from the road, and they might be impacted.
Is there water flowing towards any of those properties, or is it all away here?
No, that's just set, that's
It's all
already
in
there.
the center of the
Yeah.
wetland here.
It's already existing, it all exists today.
It's not gonna change the existing situation as it speaks.
And it's a lesser impact, much lesser impact than was
Yeah.
before with that
Right.
wider stretch of wetland versus the narrower section.
I would think it's.
I would still say it's a minor.
Yeah, I would still say that too.
So the motion is on it, the motion is
I still make.
still pending.
Yeah, I still second it.
Okay, motion made and second to consider this, because there's two votes.
Right.
To consider the amendment to the plan as a minor modification. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Yeah, I have
For the
one question.
record, Chair, another housekeeping matter, And John, we did look into the rules. This is the first time we've had anyone call in remotely. You can completely participate in the meeting, but you cannot vote on anything if you're calling in remotely, and that would be for anybody.
Okay, be quiet.
Yeah, so Elizabeth, can you add input? Elizabeth, can you add input?
Mute him.
Can you add
Yeah, he
input?
can add input to anything.
You can't vote.
Okay.
Fully participate.
I don't need
if
to
that
So-
were-
vote right now, right?
We got through that one. I just have one question while these guys are here. I don't believe we covered this the first time. We talked about it when we did the walk-in of the property as you're walking in on it, yeah? Is there gonna be any kind of border or fencing there to protect them from the road construction?
Not in the current design.
But I don't mean a permanent, any kind of stuff to lessen the impact for them. We don't have arborvitae's, whatever.
Not as it's designed right now.
You know the one I mean, the house I mean, right? On Elm Street, way at the end of Elm Street. Yeah, I mean, you're coming out on the left-hand side, it was pretty close, right?
Wasn't that a wall?
I mean, they never came by and even opposed anything, I was just curious, because that seemed pretty close when we were walking it, when we walked out on it. It would just be good neighbor stuff.
Wasn't there a stone wall on that property? Maybe I don't know.
There was something, right, Fred?
Yeah, there was something,
I think it was a stone wall.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm just, anything that, be good neighbor stuff, that's all. I don't think it'd be an expensive thing to do, and I'm not saying you have to put it in the plan or anything else. I was just saying, it was a piece that popped back into my head after the fact, So, I just think it would be neighborly. So, okay, that's all I got to say.
Okay.
Good.
So, all right, the board has determined that this is a minor modification.
Yes.
So now we have to vote on whether or not to accept the modification.
I make a motion to accept the modification.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
With the-
Can't vote, Ron.
Can't vote, not just like the last time.
All right, thank you.
No, your other left.
Your other one. Motion carries. Good luck, sir. 4.2, site plan modification for 1775 Lot Drive.
I got a question on that.
Well, let's have it presented first,
Hold on.
Excuse me.
and you may proceed.
Thank you. I'm John Grenier, JM Grenier Associates. We are the engineer on this project. Kent Oldfield works with us, and he works as a project engineer for us on various projects. This was a project over on Lock Drive. This is Lot 2, which was originally approved, I believe back in 2016.
It's been a while.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
It is. It's the medical marijuana facility. That's over right at the cul-de-sac at the very end of Lock Drive. What we are looking for is for a minor modification, and that is to address what the existing condition is. We submitted both what was the approved layout and what was the as-built condition. The only change, the limit of pavement is exactly the same. If you look at what was the original plan, in the northeast corner closest to Lock Drive, that was where the dumpster was located. And then the striping along the face of the building, there were 11 spaces along the front face of the building. What was changed and is currently in the field, the dumpster was relocated to the end of the driving aisle. And the purpose of that is, the truck comes in, can pull right in, dump the dumpster, and leave. And the way it was striped, there was one less parking spot striped along the face of the building, but that was made up for from where the dumpster was. So net, there's no change in parking spaces, and the dumpster was relocated to the end of the driving aisle, and that was just, in the field, they made that changes because it made sense for the traffic, the trash hauler. So again, we're in for a minor modification just to reflect what was built in the field. Beyond that, everything was as per the design plan.
Hey, John,
John, you had a question?
Just don't-
Well, the only question I got is, I went out to Google Maps, and when I plug in 1775, I get a totally different building. We got the right address here? Originally, I thought this was 25.
I don't know.
We have it as 17.
It's just a clarification, we can cover it. Elizabeth can check it tomorrow and verify it.
what's the address?
I can check it
Yeah,
on
we
my,
have it as 1775.
On the modification approval, right, 1775 Lot Drive, on the official paperwork. Right.
Okay.
So we'll have to make sure that's correct, the address is correct. The modification site plan says the same thing, 1775. We can still I make a motion that it is a minor modification.
I'll second that.
Motion made, second. All those, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Well, with the adjustment on let's make sure we add the adjustment on the address.
Address, yes, okay.
Okay, so we just add,
if
that
necessary.
minor,
What is the real address? This is,
it's a minor modification, but please verify correct address.
That's what John thinks. Okay.
I'm looking at our GIS database right now, so.
Oh, good. Change it, please.
If you're going in for a medical emergency, you want to actually get it, that's fine.
It'd be nice. Sometimes. Google's
All right, well,
Emergency.
so Elizabeth's looking at, so motion, did we vote on that? Motion
No.
made, second with that condition. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries, and that was just to make it considered a minor modification. Do I have a second motion?
Motion to.
Did you want to hear about the department head
The site plan.
Yes.
responses?
I didn't know if this was-
Just for the record, we received this application, I think it was New Year's Eve. And so I quickly routed it to city staff. I sent it to the police department, I sent it to the fire department, I sent it to the building department, and I sent it to conservation. And asked if they could quickly respond, we would greatly appreciate it. And I got responses back from all 3 out of the 4 so far. I got comments from the police, fire, and building, all saying that they had no issues with the parking revision. Conservation, I have not yet heard back, but
So let's just add,
would reserve that just in case that they.
And I can add for conservation, they're looking for a partial certificate of compliance because the order of conditions was for both lot 1 and 2. So for sign off on lot 2, we're gonna be getting them a request for a partial
well,
certificate.
why don't we make it,
Condition.
put it, approval for the site plan with all department head conditions satisfied.
Sure.
That's it.
That's for lot 1.
On lot 2.
They have the right address, John, by the way.
Lot 2.
It is red, okay.
Yep.
Yes,
So
okay.
good there, so, okay, that's my motion.
Second.
A motion made, second to approve the minor modification.
Well, no,
of the
we
correct-
did the minor already. We
Yes,
approved the
that-
minor.
This is
Yeah,
to
that's what I'm saying,
approve.
Oh,
to approve the
site,
minor
right.
modification.
With the-
And with the address of 1775 Lot Drive.
With
Conservation.
with conditions by department heads.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. 5.0, new business, none. 6.0, communication, 6.1, MRPC meetings and representatives.
And Chair, I believe we have someone in the audience, or 2 people in the audience that might want to.
Yeah.
Be a rep.
Stephanie's son?
We have people here from the MRPC.
Yes.
Yeah, it'd be great.
Hi.
Hi.
Welcome.
Welcome, yeah, welcome.
My name is Brad Harris. I'm the Transportation Project Director with the Montechusett Regional Planning Commission. And with me today is Glenn Eaton, who's Executive Director at the MRPC. I put together a small handout of what I'm going to be discussing. And there's basically 3 groups or organizations I'll be talking about. And they're kind of represented by the flow chart down below on the first page. The first is the MRPC, the Planning Commission, which is composed of elected officials or their designees, the 22 communities that make up our Planning Commission. That covers about north central Massachusetts, from Sterling up to the New Hampshire border, from Air out to Athol, and obviously Fitchburg, Leominster, and Gardner are our three major cities. Each community can appoint 2 people to serve on the MRPC Commission. The member is actually the appointee from the planning board, or the planning department, and the alternate would be the appointee from either the board of selectmen or the mayor. On page 3 of the handout, you'll see the current makeup of the planning commission members. For Leominster, we have Thomas Carrigan as the member, and the alternate is vacant. The alternate would be appointed by Mayor Mazzarella represent his point of view. The second group is the Montezuma Joint Transportation Committee, or MJTC. That's a subcommittee of the Planning Commission, and it concerns itself with transportation plans, programs, and to provide maximum public participation in the transportation planning and programming process. We work as staff with the MJTC. We have monthly meetings on the second Wednesday of every month. Again, each community can appoint up to 2 appointees to the board. One from the planning board, planning department, and one from, again, the mayor's office or the selectman's office. Page 2 has a listing of our current MJTC representatives. It is not required for the appointee from the planning board to be an actual member of the planning board. You appoint someone with a designee to act in their place. The most important thing is that that person is able to come back to you and provide you with input and feedback on what we're doing at the Joint Transportation Committee. So currently, you see we have David Giovanni from the mayor's office as his representative, and no one from the planning board as a representative.
David.
What we've added,
He's a member, he said not in this capacity, in a different capacity.
the page 5 of this handout is the actual appointment form for the planning board. So if you wanted to appoint someone, just fill this out and send it back to us, and we can then add them to our mailing list and get them onto the MJTC. But the JTC acts as a sounding board on transportation projects. We discuss highway, road, bridge projects as well as transit projects, and provide a lot of feedback and recommendations to the Planning Commission and to the last organization I want to mention is the Massachusetts Metropolitan Planning Organization, or MPO. That is a separate organization that was established through federal and state regulations. There are 10 signatories on the MPO. The Planning Commission is actually one of those signatories. In addition, we act as staff with the MPO, schedule the meetings, do the reporting, and all that sort of stuff. There are major federal required documents that have to be produced on a yearly basis. One is the Transportation Improvement Program, or TIP. One is the Unified Planning Work Program, or UPWP, and the other major document is the Regional Transportation Plan. In addition, we get other federally required documents that need to be addressed. These have to go through the MPO, be formally endorsed by the MPO. From my point of view, the most important one is basically the TIP. No project, federally funded highway or bridge project can go out for construction unless it has been in the TIP and been formally endorsed by the MPO. So on a yearly basis, we start that process of looking at the TIP, projects that are scheduled. The JTC is the sounding board for us when we develop the draft documents. They provide us input and feedback, and then we end up making recommendations to the Commission and the MPO as to what they think needs to be done or what should be approved. The MPO can take the recommendation, or they can do their own recommendation and not consider the JTC's input. But basically, it's an attempt to get as much public input into the process as possible. We have to prioritize our highway projects, our transportation projects. We have a certain target of funds we have available for each federal fiscal year. We try to program our projects to utilize as much of that funding as possible. And in some cases, we get down to a process where there's 2 projects that are equal in scope or priority to the region. And the JTC helps us work out which project should go forward, which one may have to wait a year, and so on and so forth. And that's a good opportunity, too, for communities who are pushing for a project to come in, voice their opinions, make themselves known, why it's important to the community, why it's important to the region, and lobby for their project. And that all information goes to the MPO for their final review and endorsement. The JPC is not we don't take formal votes, we rule by consensus. So it's a very sort of informal process, but it's a good reason to get information on other things that are going on in the region, especially on the transportation side, see what other communities are planning, and to help us in our regional planning efforts so that we can be consistent across the entire 22 communities. That, in a nutshell, is sort of the three organizations that we're talking about. The other thing that was on the agenda was talking about the Unified Planning Work Program, UPWP. That is put together every fiscal year also. It's a program and budgeting tool for us at the Planning Commission for our work that we do under our planning contract that we get from Mass DOT. Currently, we get approximately $660,000 fiscal year, a federal fiscal year, to do the transportation work. We also get federal transit funds to do transit planning. This year, we sent out a notice to our communities asking for any ideas on possible tasks that we can put into our work program. We have done studies that have looked at intersections, trying to identify what the problems are, what can be done to correct the intersection. We've done corridor studies, Route 140 in Gardner, Winchendon, and Sterling. We've done walkability studies in downtown areas in Westminster and just recently in Lunenburg. We've assisted communities with some of their ADA work on the transition plans relating to public right-of-ways. There's been also some complete streets work that we've done for communities. These are all things that we can do for a community if they have a need. We're asking for communities to send us what they think they're looking to do. Once we get all our requests in, we're going to then prioritize them and maybe pick one or two, depending on what our other tasks are that are required by the state. And there is no cost to the community. That money comes out of our planning contract, that $660,000 that we get per year. So if the board has any ideas on things they'd like to study, again, like complete streets, bike trails, walking trails, those kind of things, we can work with you in developing a more detailed scope later on once we've selected all the projects we want to do. So that's an opportunity for the community to see if there's something that's on your back burner. Maybe you want to try and get jump-started and get something worked on. In many cases, if we're doing a highway project or an intersection project, you can use the information we develop and the report that's developed as backup for requesting a federally funded project through Mass DOT. So if we do an intersection study and we recommend alternative, one's a signal, one's a roundabout, so on and so forth, we'd be up to the community to decide what's their preferred alternative, and then they can apply to start getting a possible project put together through Mass DOT and get federal funding for that project. In a nutshell, that's kind of a quick version of what we can do. I think it's important that the board get their member, get someone to appoint to come to the JTC. As I mentioned, it's a good sounding board. We present past projects we've done to the board, the JTC. Communities will discuss their problems, what they've been doing, and you may get something kick-started or may have an idea, something might come up that you haven't thought of in the past that you might want to look at in the future. And again, every year we go through this work program thing, so if nothing gets done this year for your community, we can always go to the next year and so on. It's a yearly thing for that work program. And it is federal fiscal year, so the work begins October 1st and runs through September 30th. We have to put our work program together and have it approved by the MPO by about May of this year. So there is time. All we ask is for a letter to the chief electeds indicating what you'd like to do. If you have more than one idea, prioritize it for us so that we know which is the most important. And again, we'll have to look at our budget and see how many we can fit in this year, but we're trying to reach out to the communities and get them to give us something that they can actually use. I don't know if I've covered everything.
Thank you.
I guess the main point was you were trying to say that we don't need to have a representative from the planning board attend the transportation
Right.
committee. The planning board can designate a representative that's not on the board to come to this.
You can pick anyone you're interested in, you think would be able to come to our meetings and give feedback to you. The MRPC, the full planning commission, though, a member has to be a planning board.
So we don't come here all the time. Good. Yeah.
Thank you.
I know, I can't think of those.
These guys are talking, so, you know.
And again, if there's any questions, feel free to give me a call, the planning commission, or send me an email. We'll be more than willing to get back to you as quickly as possible and work with you so that, you get something useful for the city.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brad.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
We actually have a few people in mind. We'll talk to the director about it, see if she can reach out to them.
Okay.
That's probably what they were talking about.
Yes.
They were being, they were trying, they were.
That's okay.
We were
No
actually-
problem.
Thank you guys for coming. It's nice meeting you.
He has something.
I guess,
I can leave.
I think
No,
that was
no,
it.
if you want, if you have something to say, talk.
Brownfields?
Yeah, please.
I got a couple of information. John Kim in our office does the Brownfields program. There is a meeting coming up this Wednesday during the day.
Usually does them at 1 or 2 p.m.
Yeah.
We can email.
A Brownfields meeting where they'll be looking at some applications come in already. The consultant that works on the Brownfield site assessments is going to be there to answer questions. It's a good opportunity to talk to them. He also indicated, would encourage you to send in any applications you have because there is a lot of money, there are some funds available and they want to spend it and get it out the door. So this Wednesday, I do have it over here, is a Brownfields working group meeting.
So the brownfield is it part of some of the membership for the boards?
No,
or is
it's
it
outside. It's
separate,
thing.
and
Yeah.
that's what determines the funding of the projects?
Yeah, so PCD
Yeah, yeah.
has about $1.6 million budget, and
Yeah.
600,000 of it.
Yep.
So, but we do environmental planning, brownfield, community economic development planning, land use.
And that's all under
GIS.
broad?
So that we have a bunch of different, a variety of planning disciplines in which we work.
Yes.
We just received a federal environmental protection agency grant that will fund the brownfield site assessment work. So that's what Brad's talking about.
Yeah.
And what about the DLTA?
DLTA is a state-funded program, district local technical assistance, and what it does is it's money that goes to the 13 regional planning agencies in the Commonwealth, and we spin around and we say, within the area of eligibility, and there must be 50 things that are eligible, generally in the area of regionalization of municipal services, housing, economic development, those general areas. And a lot of what we're doing is in the city zoning ordinances, but what we do a lot of is zoning bylaws, affordable housing plans, master plan chapters, and the like, environmental plans and so on. So there's a lot of planning we do that's free to communities, and that's what you really want to know.
And that's due soon, right, for this round?
There'll be 2 rounds. I think we'll have a due date this January or February, and then another one late February or March. We have a couple rounds in the winter. And I think, I believe you received a letter. I'm not sure, I'm sorry, Elizabeth.
We
I don't
did,
recall.
Nina.
You did. So that'll be the first round, and in about another 30, 40 days, we'll send out a second round.
Okay.
I'm sorry, that Brownfields meeting is at 1 o'clock in our office. It's the Montezuma Brownfields group.
And that just lists all the present projects.
Basically, what it is, the bottom line is
Right.
that a community can nominate, we have a form, you can nominate a site. A brownfield, bottom line of brownfield is where there's real or perceived contamination. So think of abandoned gas.
All right, no, that's.
Okay, bottom line.
Yeah.
So if you
That's
run
what I
by
was
some place and you think,
Yep,
it's abandoned at least, or underutilized is
Right.
also in the federal definition of the term.
but it's a cleanup site.
And it may or may not be, but what you can do is fill out a form, it goes to John Hume, and John has a brownfields working group, which is local officials, there's a lot of planners and economic development people
Yep.
from Athol to Air. And we present them with the nomination forms, and we say, which projects do you want to prioritize? Similar to the JTC, local officials working together.
Do they?
Did very well, very well.
I'm glad.
Actually, yeah.
So we actually have MRPC meetings and reps on the agenda, so if you wanted to discuss that further, you could.
What, as far as?
Do we want to have another rep?
We should have, I'm gonna need,
A rep
I didn't get that.
appointed for the transportation committee?
And that could be the one that we appoint outside of the board. too.
Yes.
And they had some names in mind. So
Yes.
Well, yeah, but we don't want to put them on the spot if
No,
they're not
right.
interested,
No,
so we can talk
Okay,
about
I
it.
hear you.
Let's figure it out, and then
We
we'll
have some
do that.
people that are into
And then-
the land trust and.
You want to find the right person.
We do, and there are a lot of good people, it's just, who's gonna have the time?
That's the
Well, and the mayor, I
Typically, we
think,
seek
Mayor has to
appointees in
change.
June, but start in July, but
yeah.
and we can put them on the board at any time.
Well, and we've been a little bit remiss on having a representative at the Regional Planning Commission for a while. And we know that. We've just been busy. So, no more excuses. We'll have to make sure
I
we
think
have
we only
that.
touched one, he had
I did.
for me.
No, we've all been a rep at one point or another. I mean, I was a rep for like 4 years, but it was a long time ago, It was a long time ago.
In the words of our former chairman, God rest his soul, Vic Koivamaki, those that go to the meetings, those that ask, get.
That's right. It's true.
So we encourage you to send your
It
representatives.
is.
Please, if you can.
It's good.
It's to
Yeah.
your benefit.
It is.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Nice having
coming.
you
All right,
guys
thank
here.
you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Take care.
Great having you here.
I select Paul.
You want to go be here? Thank you.
All in favor of Paul?
So, well, we're gonna have to make sure we have somebody that can go to
Well,
the meetings.
I know, and the mayor has to appoint a new representative
David
for
Waterman and you.
the joint transportation.
And
committee.
an alternate as well.
Yeah,
And
But I
the
can remember
alternate.
the number
Yes.
of people.
yeah, we appoint the alternate.
Land trust down
Well, we're talking the
No.
They were telling me that the
JTC.
mayor's office appoints the alternate, you appoint the
Oh, for
alternate
us,
to the
correct.
transportation.
Correct.
there. No, we can.
And the mayor's office appoints the alternate for the general.
The JTC is by appointment by the mayor. That's where Dave is right now.
One is by the mayor, one is by the
He hasn't been a
planning.
member
Right,
here
and the other
7
appointed
years,
right by the
probably.
planning board.
been a while.
Right,
How long
yeah.
have you?
But that doesn't
10
have to be a
years.
planning board member.
Was he here with you?
Oh, yeah.
Does not have to be a planning board
Correct.
member.
And the
Mike Cody was still
MRPC has to be a planning board member, and we need to make sure we get that.
I know,
Yeah, we both.
So let's, we'll figure that out.
and an alternate.
And an alternate.
The alternate of that is chosen by the mayor's office.
That's
Oh, okay,
correct.
it is, all right. So we're responsible for two positions then, for the JTC and the
Yes.
MRPC.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, and the JTC does not have to be,
That's correct.
does not have to be a planning board member.
Yep. Which is really good.
And the MMO is all,
The MMO is all appointed by the mayor.
Mayor.
It is the mayor,
it
actually.
is, that's right, it
And
is
then
the
he
mayor.
appoints the two people he's got listed.
Yes.
We should just make sure those are accurate,
Right,
because these things look pretty old right now. Even though they have January 2019 dates on them.
okay, all right.
All right, that's good.
Okay, but Elizabeth, Tom and I thought of a few people, we'll talk about it off,
Okay, perfect.
so we don't want to put anyone on the spot on the camera. So we discussed 6.2, 6.3 Citizen Planning Trading Collaborative. You gave us a handout on a workshop that's coming up in Worcester.
Yep, this is the Citizens Planning Training Collaborative, and this will be my third year attending, and I think it's a great for anybody that works on the board or in planning staff, because it goes over a lot of the state laws, including the new case laws that are coming into effect, and then also new emerging planning issues like, for example, the marijuana regulations and how that's panning out across the state. I think that anybody that's on the board would benefit by going, and I think it's cheap or very free, but we do have it. It's very cheap or free, and we do have it in the budget to send all of you if you would like to go.
What's
So
the time
it's
zone
on a
again?
Saturday, and they have a fantastic lunch. They have coffee all day, and the speakers are generally
No, I have
excellent.
that, but it doesn't have a time.
I'll
Is
be
it an
going.
all-day event?
It's going to be. It
day.
usually ends at 2 or 3. It starts at like 8:39,
It's been 8:30 to 2.
and I'm willing to carpool with anybody who wants to be green.
So I'm just letting you know. Right?
So this is just a FYI. I'm telling you now because March is coming up quicker than you
Registration.
I know, this is my Medicare month.
It is the Vernal Equinox, no less.
And I will say I did speak to at one of my meetings to a person involved with the CPTC, and they said they are working to put a lot of their programs online, which they hadn't done that in the past. But I would still recommend going to the event in March, but then using the online materials as a reference. But it'll be something that we could use in the future.
Great, so, and moving on to 6.4, City Council Petition 16-20 Research Drive.
Yep, I believe we
This is petitioner Joel Natola, petition for the acceptance of Sawtell Road, Montrose Street, and a portion of Richard Road.
And the board tabled this at the previous meeting because they were waiting on feedback from the DPW, and that's now in your packet.
And they approved. DPW was good with it.
So we'll make a recommendation to
Yeah.
approve, whatever the nomenclature.
There
I'm
were no
sorry,
outstanding
that was-
issues, right, Elizabeth, on this one?
She had, I'm sorry, I read the wrong one. It's not 15-20, it's 16-20.
16-20.
Petition for acceptance of easement for Research Drive extension. Okay.
Yeah, it's a different one.
Yeah.
Make a motion.
Do I,
What, Fred?
He made a motion.
You already made a
Oh, I-
motion, and I seconded.
motion made and seconded to recommend
Recommend.
the acceptance of the easement on Research Drive extension. All those in, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. What's the status of 15.20? This was, Commissioner was given regular course with a referral.
I wrote a letter to the city council and it went forward.
We voted on that one, all right? Okay.
Yeah, you did.
Okay. 6.5, 275 New Lancaster Road.
Yeah, I got further along with this. I contacted New England Development and I spoke with a gentleman named Kurt. And he informed me that the property has been sold to a new owner and that he's going to get me the new owner information. But then I went.
The whole development?
They
sold?
said they are telling me, the gentleman named
Yep.
Kurt is telling me, and I have it in writing, that they sold it. Now, I went to the assessor's office to try to track down
No transfer.
new owners, and I didn't find that to be the case. So that information just came to light the last day or two. So I've got to get to the bottom of what's going on with the ownership with that one.
Well, we don't, no, that's, yeah.
The assessors have the most recent ownership information.
Yep.
It's not for actually it's a misnomer. We have 275 New Lancaster Road. That's the property that had traffic counts happening, and they redid a traffic count, and then they came to the board
Right, that
in the
was the
fall,
line
and they
on
said
that.
that we'd like to
Yeah,
have,
line.
we're being held accountable. We want New England Development to be held
Correct.
accountable for theirs.
That's correct.
So this isn't actually for 275 New
No, it's
Lancaster
for the
Road. It's
whole
for a
project.
different project.
Yep.
And that's when I found out that New England Development, they are claiming that they have sold it.
Yeah,
I
or it's in
talked to like 3
process.
different people before I got to someone,
Unbelievable, aren't they?
project manager.
Unbelievable until you stop them. Until you say you can't open.
So I'm gonna keep chasing them
Okay,
and
let
get
us
to the
know.
bottom of it. I'm not letting them off the hook.
Speaking of convoluted traffic issues, 6.6.
Yes, 60,
Yes,
let's go to
we're making
6.6,
progress
60
there.
Hospital Road.
We're making progress there. I talked to Jamie Rowe, and he said that the hospital has agreed to move forward with the traffic study.
Nice. That's good. That's being a good
All right.
neighbor, see? That's nice.
6.7.
And 6.7 zoning amendments.
Yes, looking into these, I looked at one quote and the cost, can we say that on the, we can say that publicly, was for it's not a local company, it was $6,300, and then they have a maintenance fee where they, any amendments we would make during the year, they would update for a fee of, it was like just shy of $1,000, so it would be in the budget every year for $1,000. And then we would always have an up-to-date zoning ordinance if we went with that company. I did speak with the folks that were just here, the MRPC folks, and they said that's a service they could also provide. And their quote is going to be, they didn't give me their final number yet, but it's going to be in that ballpark. And then I'm working on the third quote for zoning amendments. And then,
I'm sure they offer a lot of services.
Yeah, they do. They do
We have no
that.
idea because we don't pay enough attention.
they do provide that service. And then they would be,
I mean, it's just a matter of paying attention.
Well, it sounded like they could.
And that's our fault.
It sounded like they could.
but if
be
we're going
involved.
to actually put forward the I mean, we need to put out an RF, what is it, RFP? Yeah, we need to put that out because we can't
Right,
cherry pick.
that's right. That's right.
Okay.
So, do we wanna, I'm working on my budget for January, we'll get to that next in the director's report. Do you want me to wait till then and talk about putting in zoning amendments, or do you wanna?
Well, why don't,
Yeah,
if it's related, let's do it. So let's move to 7.0 in your director's report.
Okay, in my director's report, I put forward
Excuse me.
items that I would like to request for the department for the next year. Now we know budgets are tight and we're competing with other departments, so I thought very carefully when I put forward what I'm suggesting for increased expense. And zoning amendment, we just agreed, I'm hearing from what the board had said previously in the year, and judging from what staff is dealing with in the office, we very much need this to be done. And I put a range in there because we're getting 3 bids. We're gonna put a bid out bids.
But Elizabeth, you're gonna get these bids before you submit your budget? I'm just asking, do you have that
Well,
luxury?
You know, that's something I have to find out.
Yeah,
That's something
yeah,
I have
I'm
to
just
find out.
curious.
But I don't know that I do have that luxury.
Right,
So
right.
I'm gonna have to put forward in my budget an amount.
Ballpark it.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if you can go out to bid on it now and then find out exactly what it's gonna cost you, so
I could put the bid out.
without
Just-
having a commitment on your budget, you know?
Yeah, I
Then you can
could
get
do
some-
that soon and give it,
I think you have a better chance when you get a little more specific. on
that's a good idea.
the amounts.
And
My fault. If you have time, if it's doable.
and
No,
what-
the estimates I can get,
Yeah, yeah.
but the request for bid.
No, you can,
Yeah.
as long as you get some estimates, that's good, because it's just more firepower you have.
can we include amending the subdivision control law too? And with the zoning ordinance?
As part of that contract,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Because if they're doing one, why not the
It's
other?
gonna go, it's gonna be, so with amending the subdivision control law, the problem we have 2 prongs with the zoning ordinance. We have the set of amendments that have already been made that need to be integrated.
Yeah.
And then we have the ones that we're going to be working on in the coming 6 months. So, and those will need to be integrated as well. With subdivision control law, we don't have we're about to have an amendment because I've been working with the postmaster on that. But is the board looking to have a more detailed?
My issue isn't necessarily the content, it's the updates. I'm trying to think of the right way. It's not the substantive content of our regulations. It's the way it's set up, and I don't like the way it's set
You
up.
think it should be, the content should be retained, but the format should be
The format, that's a perfect word. I don't like the format of it.
retain content, redo format.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
And I don't know if that's something that's maybe,
We'll get another set of eyes.
that
on
you
it.
and I could do on a Saturday afternoon, or whether or not a professional said, yeah, we can set it up. I just don't like the way it's
Okay, that would be 2
formatted.
different, I'm gonna put that down.
Why don't you
as 2
just at least
different-
ask them, and if they say,
Okay,
well,
You know,
that's
they
gonna
give you
cost
some
$5,000 too,
crazy-
then it's not
right,
worth it.
Right.
Okay.
They give you some crazy number, just say, well, yeah, never mind.
got it. Did you want me to continue to talk about budget, so while we're on that topic? In our office, we are expanding our paper, we're expanding both our digital and our paper retention of records, and we are out of space with our current capacities, and we need file cabinets. We'd like to get it to where we can, and John and I have talked about this, and we agree it's a good project. We're gonna be redoing all of the file cabinets with all the documents that we have, and would like new file cabinets.
That's great, but.
At the minimum,
Elizabeth,
yeah,
Wait,
have we ever looked into doing the work piece on them?
doing a what?
Put them on a micro?
I would think that the best thing to do is be to move toward some kind of digital documentation and move away from the paper files, especially
Well, that's what I said, if you go to the microfiche, you reduce
just
all the
adding
old
more
stuff
paper
down.
that's not the way of the world, let's get rid of paper, let's go digital.
PDFs.
I don't know if.
You're talking about PDFs, John?
Well, we
No,
digitize
they
it,
have,
whatever.
the older you get, they put it on
Slides
microfiche,
it
but
in.
yeah, anything that's,
Guess
just
what?
let's
Like,
just talk
electricity goes
digital,
out,
let's
you
just
get a
talk
little
digital
file, you don't
records.
buy anything, you still see it.
Let's look into what some other communities done as far as
Okay.
digitizing or modernizing
more.
their planning departments. I'm sure,
It's happened across the board, and
It
it's happened
has.
a while ago for most departments.
especially for the larger
We've been,
cities.
we've been digitizing a lot of our documents moving forward, but
But it's the old stuff.
the previous items, and a lot of them, if you undo the plan, it falls apart, it has, it can't, not every piece can go through the
Right.
scanner, but I'm
But
sure
then,
other
but then
departments.
you have so many years you can tuck away in an archive somewhere as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Without keeping them in a filing cabinet in the office. I say we need to modernize a little bit myself.
Would the board be open to getting their information digitally instead of in packets?
Yes.
Oh,
Because
absolutely.
I know the Conservation
Absolutely, right.
Commission utilizes that,
Yeah,
and it would
yeah.
be
Email me.
great.
Yep.
I think they have some sort of
Probably not him.
Dropbox.
Not John,
Like a
but,
Google Dropbox.
Hey, John, if you get a gag, just put yourself on
He has
mute,
a
will
fax
ya?
machine, maybe.
Maybe, I know some boards have individual laptops for their members.
No, we're not gonna have that.
No, we don't need
It's just a
The
tablet.
Conservation
You can-
Commission utilizes
Get us each a
the
tablet so we can
Dropbox.
carry it with us and we can follow digitally on tablets.
That would,
That'd be nice.
that would quell the necessity for
And
a
then
walk
buy the tablets through, the school department. Get part of the deal for the tablet through the school department and we can keep them all
John,
digitally on
are
there.
you amenable to having a digital packet, or do you need a paper packet?
No, that's all right.
Digital?
Digital.
Yeah.
Yeah, digital's fine.
Do you
Okay,
have
well,
an- do you have an email? That's the question.
Yeah, he does. John has.
Yeah,
Drop that so-
a digital
Send it
packet
to
would,
Pat.
a
Pat will take
digital
care of it.
packet would help staff too, because,
And the Pony Express comes through here every once in a while.
It's still paper hard.
Okay. All right, let's move on, can we move on?
Okay.
okay, I added, $500 for travel and training, because I'd like to add more to that, but, I think if we put more than, a little bit, we might not get anything, so I wanna beef up.
Yeah, but
travel.
if you put like $2,000, they may give you $1,000. If they don't watch this.
Advertising.
It's just my thought. I always ask for twice what I want.
Well, just attending the regional conferences,
Is good.
getting a hotel,
Yeah, but let's say you want to send stuff
and I
to
wanna
a
say
training,
stuff,
right?
yeah.
And now there's different trainings. Ask for a little more. And you're not going to be throwing away $5,000 in filing cabinets. You're going to look for what it's going to cost to digitize, right?
Okay.
So you may have some economies of scale there. So, because you're going to be doing.
Well, like you said, you've got a lot of old documents
I know.
that you can't digitize.
Yeah, but those can be archived somewhere. They don't have to sit in her office if they're over a certain age.
Can we not go back to the cabinets? We'll go moving forward.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but can't you do something when, say, some seminar, something comes up, can't you put in a request for it? Without it having to be in our particular budget?
It comes out of our budget.
Oh, okay.
Comes out of our budget, and it's very lean. It's probably, Stephanie, is it like $1,500 for the year?
Yeah, so see, you're only
Yeah.
asking for 500?
And just a regional, the annual conference, and I probably won't go every year. The national conference, to stay relevant in this career, you need to be attending that at least every other year. And it's $750 just for the registration fee.
Right.
And I paid my own way last time.
Yep.
But now that I bought a house, I'm not gonna be
Yeah.
able to do that anymore. So if you want me to
Bump it
do
up.
that,
I would
Bump it up,
and
because
wherever.
what's the worst case, they say no, and they come back with what they'll approve.
So
And it
which-
may be more than what you're asking
so
for.
you would ask for 2,000?
I would,
Travel and training, absolutely.
and think about
Where
it,
is
that
that
you would like to
conference?
attend, think about that would be an important thing to attend every
Where is
year.
that, where is that conference?
This year's in Houston.
So you gotta fly there, you gotta.
You gotta fly, you gotta hotel.
You gotta eat, you gotta,
From Poughkeepsie.
I paid my own way to San Francisco.
it's in Albany, New York.
That was a,
Yep.
it was
yeah,
worthwhile.
Yeah.
And I presented there too, and I represented us.
See?
Well, it shouldn't have paid.
Bump it.
Bump it up.
Bump it up.
So you
Okay,
know.
that's good.
And then contract services, this is something that we've had in our budget historically for, I don't know how many years, but for some reason, I don't know if it was an oversight or what happened, but it was removed from our budget. And so we're now paying for contract services, which is essentially our copy machine that we use for everything.
Is this an annual maintenance plan that you're paying
It's
for?
a monthly, we pay a monthly fee.
Right. So
But
it's
we're
an
on a
annual
contract.
plan,
We're on a
right.
contract for
Right,
$1,500.
parts and labor.
So that's just kind of
Yep.
no brainer there.
So
And
these are
then,
just-
I'm
these are
trying
just
to-
increases of what you spent. All right, these are just increases? What-
These are, everything
things
else I'm gonna
she's added.
flatline. These are just the items
Yeah.
that are, I would like to increase. And then, planning board salaries haven't been increased in a long time, and I'd like to ask for, I know you probably can't speak to your own salary, but I'd like to ask for a little bump up there. Maybe I can creep it up every year.
Hey, no argument here. We started at 400.
We did a salary survey. I had an
Yeah, we
intern
got-
do a
what was
salary
that?
survey.
And then we went to 1,000, and it was like, what's that?
Then I went to
That was like
five.
a 250%.
Yeah, 250%
Yeah,
increase.
Yeah. Yeah, but we did 20 plus years at $400.
But that,
And those were the
that
busy
raise,
years. Those were the years where we never got out of here before midnight.
that raise was at least 10 years ago now.
More than that.
It was more than that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm willing to go for more, but I've got to be strategic.
We're here
No, that's
for the
good.
pleasure of the community. We're here because we
Yeah.
care
We're
about
not here
the
for the
community.
money.
So we don't, whatever.
That just increases the nice Christmas budget. So that maybe she'll be
So what-
excited.
You got too many
What about
kids.
special
Just a couple
permits and
other items.
housing?
Okay, so for special permit applications, I've been working with two other departments. I've been working with the building department, and I've been working with the assessing department. And instead of having an applicant run to 3 different departments when they want to get a special permit, we want them to have to go to only one place, and that's the planning and development department. I worked it out so that I can amend our application, and they fill out their own form to request an abutters list. I make sure it's legit. The director makes sure it's legit and then signs off on it, and then collects the $30 fee for their abutter form, and then I will internally route that to the assessing department, rather than make them go to one floor and then back down to another and all over the place. And then on this, as another added convenience to the anybody requesting an abutters list, the assessing department is going to print out a label sheet. And we just did this for first try for the first person. It was a week ago. We did it for someone, or the assessing department did it for a person, and now they can just take their labels and stick them onto their envelopes. They don't have to retype everything, and that's another item we thought would help build good customer service.
Right, it's great. That's great. Nice job.
Yep.
Okay.
Housing. So this is coming down from my organizations, all these seminars I go to in San Francisco, and I went to the SNEPA conference in Springfield, and I get my planning magazine and I read articles about housing, and I talk to, when I'm at, I participate in the LTA, Liabilities to Assets program with New View, and I'm learning how dire the housing need is in Leominster and in the region. And so there's a lot of support behind this from different officials. I talked with Rep. Higgins about this. I talked with the chief of staff from Senator Tran's office. They're behind doing something. The New View community folks are behind doing something. When I say something, something means you can call it a forum, you can call it a summit. What I'm thinking of is similar to what they did with the vulnerabilities program. I don't know if anybody heard about what the mayor's office did with that, but we went to the emergency services building where they have a nice facility there. You can fit 50 people. It's not too big of a group. It's not too small. And you get, it's like a think tank. You get all people that are already involved in housing together in one room for a workshop day, maybe like a short day, like 9 to 2, and you do charrettes, and you come up with solutions. What can Leominster do? And it's going to include the region, so it's not just a Leominster issue; it's a regional issue. But what can we do to address the housing crisis? But all I would need to do is I could draft a fancy letter, and we could send it to the mayor and see if he would like Leominster to spearhead this. Because if Leominster doesn't, it's going to be somebody like Fitchburg, and then they're going to get all the.
And nobody's gonna go. So, put the letter together.
So I'll put a letter together, and then we'll send it to the mayor, and it'll be from the board.
Yep. Thank you.
And I have a quick thing before we close out. Can the MJT and all that help us with the new Lancaster Road? Can they?
Oh, for the signalization?
Yeah, can they help? Because they do
Probably.
transportation.
But you'd have to put it in.
Yeah.
Seeing we were trying to hold the Wing Development.
Yeah, but
now we don't know
we have
who
to
it
pay
is.
them.
Who it is?
So let's find out who it is and hold their feet to the
Yeah,
fire
yeah,
first, and
yeah.
if they don't come through, then we can move it forward as a.
It would be, the burden would be on the New England Development folks to hire
Right.
someone like
Correct.
them.
Okay.
But
I'm
yes.
just saying if it would help.
Yeah, I say let's hold
Move
their
things
feet to the
faster.
fire first, and let's find out who owns it.
Okay.
Because they was, as part of the original conditions, if I remember correctly, they were supposed to upgrade that traffic plan after so many years anyway. They were supposed to revisit all that, especially a buildup. So I think they're on the hook for that as one of the conditions on the original approval. So let's make sure we know that first, right? That's all I got.
And if that doesn't work, you could be the
That's right.
representative and present that.
Perfect. No, he'd be great, Mark. He'd be great. I vote for him.
So a housekeeping matter before you adjourn.
I vote for Patrick.
This kid has.
He
Can't find himself
He has no time.
He can't even, he rides a car like Fred Flintstone. My car. Sorry.
Yes, Elizabeth.
Housekeeping matter before you adjourn. You may note that at the bottom, item 9.1, the next meeting is January 27th.
Yes.
That's in, we have a meeting scheduled for February 3rd originally.
Yes.
And we do have
27th.
one item that was continued to that date. That's the Mary Avenue Extension subdivision, and
Yeah, we did
that is a
February
public
3rd,
hearing.
you mean? That originally was for February 3rd.
For February 3rd.
Good.
I've already communicated with the folks, with Anthony Cleves on that, and he said they would like to move it to March. But as a matter of procedure, do we need to have 4 people here on February 3rd to continue that hearing to March? Or is there another avenue we can take?
We
to continue
haven't
that.
had the public hearing yet, right?
Yes, it's been,
It's-
We have had.
There's been multiple.
Yeah, this is
It's
just a
gone on
continued
for
hearing.
almost a year.
It's continued.
Well, I won't be here the month of March, so will we have a quorum in March? Because he's not here, I won't be here.
Who else is not?
why can't you
what?
just post,
Can we,
why can't you just post it on or before, well, whatever the time frame is, 24 hours before the 3rd, that it's been continued to March 2nd?
So we
It's
can-
easier to continue it than
Yes.
to advance it. So if they were gonna have it in January, that would be more of an issue, because people are thinking
They're gonna
it's,
show up.
so we
right?
post it on the door? And do we post it?
post it where you usually post the meetings, that
Downstairs.
the hearing's been continued.
At the
I
clerk's
think,
office and on the town.
28
Yeah,
hours.
yeah. And how about,
28
would you have to do that with the abutters?
24 hours. 48 hours.
Because it's a public hearing,
Yeah, it's
it's
so.
a public hearing, but
That's
don't
what
you
I'm
think
trying
it's
to-
more more of an inconvenience to the abutters if they
Yes.
come here on the 3rd and they're just continuing it?
That's right.
So we'll announce, anyone who's watching out there in Leominster TV land, with the Mary Avenue continued public hearing is now been rescheduled to March 3rd, 2019 at 6:30, correct?
March
Just
2nd.
need a motion.
It's a leap year.
Ah, March 2nd
At what time? 6:30?
at 6:30. And then I
it's a
think if you
special
post
permit.
it.
Motion?
So all we need is 5.
Yeah, so why don't we,
Yeah, do it. We got a motion and a second.
We're good. To change the January.
And to post it
February.
to post it within the statutory time period
Where
before
required.
February 3rd,
Yep.
2020.
But where required, yeah.
Okay, so that would give us, there's a holiday in February for the second meeting. So that would give us no meeting in February. Is that? We haven't had anything come in. If we have something,
Well, if you have something come in,
Yeah,
Something coming in.
we'll figure it out.
and that means everybody's gonna be refreshed and ready to attend the March CTPC.
There you go.
It is the,
maybe, I just have to
First
figure
day of
out my
spring.
daughter's vacation weeks.
I have to figure out if I'm gonna be around too.
vernal equinox.
I might be around
Okay.
myself.
So our next
March
meeting
21st.
is scheduled for January 27th at 6:30 at the library. At the library.
The 3-2 meeting?
Yeah, I did
No,
confirm.
no,
Library.
January 27th
Oh.
meeting.
January.
So we still have a 27th.
27th.
So instead of only one in January, we'll have 2 in January, none in February, and then back on track.
Okay, good. Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor? Any
Aye.
discussion?
No.
Okay.
Aye.
Adjourned.
Bye, John.